Hi, and welcome to Your Ideal Path, the Ideal Schools podcast. And I would love to say hello, and all of you, I'm sure, are happy to see Stephanie Marshall. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi Elaine, thanks for having me.
So happy to have you on, Stephanie. So, we're going to talk a bit about your career journey to date, because that's obviously what your ideal path really is about, but also a little bit about, stuff to do with bookkeeping and the economic sort of situation right now and what businesses need to be thinking about. So, if we go back in time to young Stephanie in school, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a chef. I wanted to own my own restaurant, which in hindsight was quite funny. But when I left school at 16, I was going to be a chef, which is ironic because I can't really cook.
Wow. And then you clearly had some kind of feel for business if you thought you were going to have a restaurant of your own. So did business feature in your sort of initial career
Yeah,
after school?
absolutely. So I started business studies at the age of 14. So I've been studying business, the theory of business and the practical side, since I was 14. And in hindsight, I was the child that would buy something in bulk, sell it for, like, sell sweets out of my backpacks. Like, I was one of those children. I think I was entrepreneurial from day dot, so that I would have more money for lunch. I think I was always that way. I went to college at 16 when I left school. I lasted 3 months in catering college. It was not for
Yeah.
me.
Okay.
Got a job in McDonald's, was one of
Mhm.
the best jobs I ever had. It was just that was the thing we did. I'm from Scunthorpe, I'm from a small town in the north of England. There's not a lot of options available until my apprenticeship came around, and I started with a business administration apprenticeship. I
Okay.
left school with two A's in business in GCSE, so it made sense that that's the sort of path that I would go down.
Yep. Okay, great. So you did your apprenticeship and then what happened?
So from the apprenticeship, I then went back to college in a different city. It was like a 2.5 hour bus ride each way every day.
Oh,
It was a real dedication. I went to college in Hull,
not
which is
half.
over the Humber Bridge and
Yeah, yeah.
quite a distance from where I'm from. I'd leave my house like 5 in the morning, walk to the main bus station because no
Oh,
buses
wow.
run that early, to study business. And that was my first sort of foray into accountancy. Because in secondary school, in England specifically, they don't really cover much more than a business plan, much more than this is how a business works. There was never really
Yeah.
any education around finance, around balance sheets, profit and losses, how to cost things and price things. And those things are really important if you're going to run a business. So that was where my um, real finance journey started, was that whole
Okay.
college at the age of 17.
And it's interesting because when I was in school, you could do accounts as a qualification in Scotland. There was a higher, and you could actually do it as a subject. So it was definitely there for a while. And now it's migrated into becoming business management, and it's not really the same. I think if you're interested in bookkeeping and accounting, you really need to go beyond school. Um, Certainly in Scotland now, and it's almost like a backward step. Put a pin in that because we're going to come back and talk about your book later on, which is going to hopefully plug a gap for some young people out there. So, you did your next college course in Hull, huge commute, clearly pretty dedicated and wanted to do well. What happened after that?
I got my first job. I was a working at a credit union, which
Okay.
for people that don't know, the North Lincolnshire Credit Union was a bit like a bank, so a bit like a nationwide building society. People would come in, take money out, put cash in. So that was my first sort of, I guess, experience when it came to finances, of handling money, handling other people's money, understanding
Yep.
interest rates and things like that. It was just a plug of a gap, realistically. I never really had many opportunities. I don't come from the greatest childhood, so I didn't have many opportunities. It was sort of a means to an end, and it was something I felt naturally good at. I think numbers
Mhm.
is something I've always enjoyed. Not
Yep.
necessarily mathematics. I think that's a real common myth that people think that to be an accountant or a bookkeeper, you need to be good at maths or
No,
like
it's
maths.
It's different, isn't it? It's a different way of dealing with numbers. It's not, it's not the engineering formula side of mathematics. It's much more the kind of arithmetical side and the statistical side and how it all kind of it works together. So I know as time went on, you got involved later on with MotoGP, is that right? So tell us a
British
bit about.
British touring car. First was Speedway, but from the wrong side of the fence.
Right. So give us a little whistle stop tour because it's all interesting stuff of what happened then. So credit union, what next?
So I mean, Speedway motorsport, I come from a child. I adore motorsport. I've always enjoyed motorsport. At the age of 14, I started going to Speedway, which is 500cc motorbikes with no brakes, one set gear, sliding around the corners faster than a Formula One car. It's great
Okay.
fun.
Yeah.
So much fun. And that led me to meet people. So I ended up helping out in the cafe and helping out in the bar, and I was on the grid, and I would go down to Cardiff, and that kind of was the first time I got out of Scunthorpe as well. That was when it was, oh, there's more to this life if I want there to be.
Yeah.
I moved down south to be with a speedway rider who then became my children's dad, and he lived in Kent, so I moved to Kent to be with him. And
Okay.
the opportunity came around for me to be a bookkeeper for a British touring car team. I also
Ah,
worked
right.
at Brands Hatch, so I helped in the Kentagon, I helped in the paddock. Um, I enjoyed it anyway. I'm very much, even to this day, I will mix business and pleasure wherever I can, in that
Hmm.
I want to enjoy what I do. And if there's
Yeah.
something that I really love, so for me it's motorsport and it's the music industry, if I can help in any way, then I'm going to.
Okay.
And that naturally then forwards you and doors start opening for you because people already know you, like you, trust you, can see who you are.
Yeah, so it's networking but with a small n because you're doing something that you really love, but you are making contacts, you're finding people that you can work with going forward and opportunities and things kind of come your way. That's really interesting. So, what got you to the point where you thought, no, actually, I want to be self-employed, I want to have my own practice, and the journey to doing the qualifications that you did with Ideal Schools?
Yeah, so I had a job working for, so I was a bookkeeper in employment in many different roles
Yeah,
over the years.
exactly.
So I sort of came from industry into self-employment. And I worked for a company who look after the five-star luxury apartment health and leisure facilities across London. And in COVID, they wanted me to go into the office. I couldn't.
Okay.
I had two
Yeah.
children to homeschool. I am a proper COVID baby. ABC UK is a real COVID baby of a business.
Okay.
And it got to the point where I was like, I can't do this. How can I do this with children around? Both my children have different additional needs, so
Yep.
they need a lot more care than a neurotypical child anyway.
Yep.
So I just made the jump, and I was very lucky in the fact that my therapist hates it when I say I'm lucky, but I was so lucky in the fact that that network I'd built at the motorsport in the race team, going
Yeah.
across the country with them, meant that the first couple of clients I took on board were sponsors or business owners or athletes themselves who knew me, liked me, trusted me. Yeah, of course you can do our book, Stephanie, not a problem. That's where the business came from.
Ah, right, okay. So it was those connections, and actually I can see where your therapist's coming from because that wasn't luck. That was you that cultivated those connections. So she's probably got a fair point. So how did you find Ideal Schools?
Ideal Schools was back in 2017, so it was before I got a job with the race team. I just had my second child. I was at home. I didn't drive, for example. I didn't pass my driving test till 27, which is quite funny considering I'm so obsessed with all things
You're a
motorsport.
petrol head. I know that's so funny. Yeah,
But yeah, so I wanted to learn from home. Obviously, I had two kids under 5 at that point. I had to find something that I could do from home, and I literally Googled bookkeeping courses.
hmm,
My partner at the time was a plumber, self-employed plumber, so I helped him with his books. I was like, I need to understand this better. I love to learn anyway. I think you can never learn enough. I think I'm always learning every day.
yeah,
So this was the next step in my learning journey.
yeah,
Idle schools, they would send things to my house. They would have somebody that I could email or call if I was a bit stuck, so I didn't feel alone on the journey. And I
yeah,
could do it around my kids. So unlike going to distance learning colleges where you have to be on Zoom 9 till 12 or you had to do
yeah,
it within a certain term time, I couldn't have those deadlines. I needed that full flexibility to fit it
yeah.
in around my everyday life.
Yeah, fantastic. And the relationships that you've built with our team over the years are pretty strong. I know that you and Brian talked from the very beginning, and that that relationship is still important to both of you.
Well, it's nice to hear that he feels the same because it's very
Yeah, he
important to
definitely
me.
does.
I definitely feel like part of the Ideal Schools family, and even though my studying journey is at its end,
Yeah,
the fact that I still get to be involved with you all, the fact that we're here today having this conversation,
yeah.
means a lot to me. I'm really grateful for it.
Yeah, no, we are too, and we love that you're one of our ambassadors because it's just great for other people to learn, about your journey and also the kind of experiences that you can share with them as a business owner in practice as well. So ABCS UK is formed. You're up and running. Um, what did you like about that? self-employed kind of side of things rather than being an employed bookkeeper, and what were the challenges?
I think for me, I was never meant to be employed. I am not very good at being told what to do. I think most
You and me
entrepreneurs are the
both.
same. Yeah, I'm unemployable. Um, I think it's important that I got to do things my way. And when I started the business, I had enough experience on my side. Obviously, studying it from such a young age meant that although even now I'm almost 35, I have been doing this for nearly 20 years.
Yeah, that's
So I
incredible,
have
isn't it?
so much experience, but I also have the benefit of being from the generation where computers were starting to come in school. We did start with technology fairly early, which makes
Yes.
it much easier for me to adopt new technologies, to build my own software and things that I've done. That's a benefit because I'm one of the younger ones in the industry, but then I also have
Yeah.
all those years of experience of actually just boots on the ground and doing the work.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's definitely, I think, an advantage that you have, because I think the ones that are more my age are, yeah, we're a little bit scared of the tech sometimes. I mean, we
We're the
get
same
there.
age. What are you talking about? We're definitely the same age.
You're very good, Stephanie. I knew that was why I had you on. So we talked about the kind of the things that are good about it, the fact that you love being your own boss. What kind of challenges come with being self-employed?
I think the first challenge is the uncertainty of when that money's going to come in, or when that job's going to land, when that contract's going to fall at your feet, or when you're going to sign on these clients. As a bookkeeper, we are an essential to most
Yeah,
businesses.
yeah,
With the legislative changes, it's definitely something that we're becoming even more and more important as to businesses, because they're going to need that help from a compliance perspective much more frequently than they have historically. I think the biggest, scariest thing for most bookkeepers as an introvert is getting out there and talking to people, is
yeah.
telling people you exist.
Yeah. Okay. And what advice, because I know we'll kind of talk about your kind of career arc and journey, and we'll go back to that in a second, but let's just take this moment then, because you've mentioned that. What advice would you give to people who are starting out? Is it about just pushing yourself out of your comfort zone?
It depends on the type of person you are. If you're somebody who is naturally extroverted and quite happy to get on camera and have conversations, then use that to your benefit. If you're somebody who doesn't like being on camera, doesn't like being out, finds peopling draining your social battery and really tiring, then there's multiple ways that you can do this. My biggest piece of advice for any business owner, for anyone starting any career journey, hobby, anything in life, is to ask for help.
Hmm.
Nobody actually wants to see you fail. And I think once we start to understand that, people don't want to see you fail. Everyone wants you to succeed. We all want to cheer
Yeah.
you on, lift you
Yeah.
up. And I know the bookkeeping and accountancy industry is very special in that we do have a collaboration over competition mentality.
Yeah.
However, in all industries, if you ask for help, that's the thing that happens. I was 3.5, 4 years into this business before I started asking for help. And in the last 12 months, the business has grown and changed, and the opportunities that I've been given absolutely blow my mind only because I asked. The
Yeah.
worst someone can say is no.
Yeah. It's about just not being too afraid to ask and yeah, and if you're not super confident about meeting people face to face, there's loads of other ways that you can reach out and make those connections. That's great advice.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
think the other thing is that with asking for help and things, if people do say no, I always like to set myself little challenges. So, as somebody that's naturally quite introverted and struggles to have those face to face conversations and reach out, I'll set myself little challenges. Like, Stephanie, you need to go and talk to 3 people today. Like, you need to reach out to 4 people today.
Yeah.
Those small little baby steps, little challenges, little things you can tick off the list, is giving your brain evidence that actually it's not as scary as you think it is, because
Yeah.
you've had that conversation, and even if they've said no, you've had that conversation, you've done that thing that was
Yeah.
scary, and then the next thing doesn't feel so scary. So your comfort zone grows naturally because you're just giving yourself those little challenges. Sometimes
No,
you need
that's
a little
great.
prize, like, once I send these 10 emails, I'm going to go and get a coffee, or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. That carrot dangling. The way we treat children is the way we should treat ourselves sometimes, in that actually bribery and corruption is sometimes the best way to do it.
I think that's really interesting, because we had a webinar last year and we were talking about study skills, learning to learn, and we were talking about all of this stuff, harnessing all of these things, your natural motivations. What type of person are you? What would you enjoy? How would you reward yourself? All of that. I think that's brilliant advice. Yeah, it's about knowing yourself, isn't it? Being self-aware and removing barriers, but also putting in little carrots as well. Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, so you talked a little bit about how the industry's changing in terms of the kind of the increased demands for people's records to be kept and updated, and also for that advice and that relationship between the bookkeeper and the client to be not just a year-end conversation, for it to be going on throughout the year. Do you see that as a big opportunity for the industry?
Oh, absolutely. I think Making Tax Digital is finally going to be here. We finally got here after years and years of delays. Wasn't sure we was ever going to make it, but we're here. And Making Tax Digital is such a great opportunity for bookkeepers because business owners who have usually thrown receipts into a shoebox at the end of the year, just given it over to their accountant, that's not going to cut it anymore. They have to submit quarterly. They have to keep their records digitally. A lot of them won't want to use software. So there's an opportunity there to either teach them the benefits of software and help them be more efficient, or
Hmm.
take that workload for us, in which case you can earn more income.
Yeah. So it's about, instead of, we used to always talk about at Ideal Schools, if you wanted to add self-assessment, for example, on to your portfolio of services that you offered, that maybe it was a good thing because you could take the clients you already had and give them an increased level of service, so you could get, you could improve your business that way. I think now what we're looking at saying is, you're going to be doing the work anyway. You're actually going to be doing these figures all the way through the year. Why do you then want to hand it on to someone else to get it, to get paid? So if you're doing the work, you should really be getting the financial recompense. So that's why we think that course is definitely a winner at the moment for people. Okay, so you have got your own podcast, which is part of the reason why we're here, because you have been my arm up my back for months and months and months saying, come on, get on with it, get the podcast underway. So tell us a bit about the three Bs. What's the thinking behind it, and why did you start it?
I mean, first of all, I'm glad I twisted your arm. I'm sorry, not sorry. Because I think this is incredibly important. So, my podcast, the 3Bs podcast, is 15 minutes of short, sharp, actionable advice, motivation, inspiration, or education to help business owners build better businesses. Now, the whole premise of this is ABCS UK is a boutique premium advisory firm. We don't just do the compliance of bookkeeping and accountancy, we also do business development, we build software, we train staff members, we do marketing, HR, legal, insurance, whatever it is a business owner needs to get
Yeah,
his business from where it is to where he wants it to be. That comes with a premium fee.
yeah,
And a lot of business owners I want to help just do not have that financial level of investment.
yeah.
So I thought, how can I start to help these business owners? So in 2021, so pretty early on in my business journey,
Yeah,
I was like, I'm going to do a podcast, 15 minutes. It's easy. I mean, I love Diary of a CEO. There's plenty of incredible podcasts out there.
yeah.
We don't always have 2 hours.
No, but who does really? That's the
And
thing.
when you stop and restart, you forget what was said. And
Yeah,
I just wanted it to be short, sharp, and actionable. We're in a world where short form content has been king for quite a while now, in that I think it's 7 seconds, the average attention span. So when you post on social media, the first 7 seconds, if there's not a hook in that, people tend to scroll away.
hmm,
And I think that's so important to get that information into people and help them to build their businesses in a quick and easy to understand way, and also that doesn't take up too much time, in that
yeah,
to create, produce, and put out. I don't have to sit here on Zoom for hours and hours and
yeah,
hours.
yeah, yeah,
I can do it, it goes out, and it's now there. So we're on episode well over 150 now.
yeah. You are
People can go
amazing.
back and listen to 101 if it's
Yeah,
relevant. They
yeah,
can go back and listen to episode 4 if it's relevant.
yeah.
That library is there forever now for business owners or bookkeepers to go back and listen to.
No, and
Um,
it's highly recommended because I've listened to many episodes, and I just think you're very, very honest as well. I mean, it is a genuine insight into what you are seeing, feeling, experiencing, running your business, and the kind of issues that are cropping up. So I think it's really, really helpful for people.
I appreciate that. I really do. I think it's so important to be honest and transparent. Is very much who I am.
Yeah,
I don't see the point in pretending everything's sunshine and rainbows, because life as a business owner,
no,
life as an
absolutely.
entrepreneur is a roller coaster. So
Yeah,
why pretend it's anything but? Like, sometimes it's really hard. And
yeah,
as an introvert, I couldn't do this and get on camera. So the first 85, I think, episodes are audio only. I would be
yeah,
sat on the sofa in my pajamas with, I think I didn't even have a microphone. I think I used my mobile phone.
yeah,
Even now, 150 episodes in, whilst I have a mic now, I'm still using the laptop camera. Like, there's
yeah,
nothing special here. It's
yeah,
easy to get started. As I said to you, like, we can do this. It's really easy.
yeah.
the impact for me is what drew me to do it. I wanted to help people. How can I help people? Everything I do that might make me feel a bit anxious, talking on stage, putting out a slightly controversial post on social media, getting on here and doing podcasts or webinars, it's always for the audience. I'm doing this today to hope that either Ideal School students, past Ideal School students, future Ideal School students can find this and
Yeah.
think, okay, no, that really helped me make the
Yeah.
next step in whatever their journey brings them.
I think it's that thing of, I think almost every challenge in life, the thing that makes you feel that you might be able to get past it is, I thought I was on my own with this, but oh, you too, you're going through this too, or you understand where I'm coming from, and that makes people think, no, I can actually get past this and I can give it a go. So I think that's key. So yeah, the podcast's been really, really important. Tell us a bit about your should I say multi-award winning, your two-time award-winning Luca ICB Bookkeeper of the Year Awards. So what's that meant to you, Stephanie, being involved with that?
That meant the absolute world to me. As you well know, we've had many conversations over the years about it. The ICB, the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers, is my professional body, and I don't run a traditional practice. We close in August, for example. Like, I built a business around my kids. I will always build a business around work-life balance. I think it's so important. It's not always perfect. There's months and weeks, like in January, for example, where mum's locked away because she's working.
Yeah,
But I think it's important to build things that work for you. The ICB recognises that I am not doing things traditionally. Quite often with some of the institutions that have been around a long time, they don't like anything a bit different. They like you to
yeah,
fit in a box. The
yeah,
education system is a prime example of that. And I
yeah,
think for me, getting a Luca Award, the first one, was utterly incredible. And I wasn't a first time winner. I think people are just like, oh yeah, she always wins things. No, I don't. I
yeah,
was shortlisted in 22, shortlisted in 23,
yeah,
didn't win. In 2024, I was shortlisted in 3 categories and I won 1. In 2025, I was shortlisted in 5 categories
yeah,
and only won 1. So it's important to know that, yes, I am doing incredibly well and I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I am in and the recognition from people that are literally my professional body who are saying that, yes, okay, her influence, the things she's doing and she's doing it differently is worthy of a
yeah,
Luca. It's
yeah.
an Oscar of our industry. There's no higher praise than that.
No, it feels like it's acceptance. It's more than acceptance, it's endorsement. So that's fantastic. And yeah, we had that first one that in 2024 was just brilliant, wasn't it? Such a great night, and last year too. So yeah, really, really happy for you. Can I also just come back to what we were talking about earlier, which was the kind of education side of things in school for young people? So I've got two teenagers. They're both have done or are doing business management as one of their subjects in school. But I think your book plugs a gap that they don't necessarily cover. Can you tell me a bit about that, Stephanie, the book?
Yeah, so my book, Finance for Life, came out in February 2024. And it's an essential guide for things that we are not taught at school. And the premise behind it was my children at the time when I wrote it were 12 and 9, 12 and 10 possibly. They're sort of preteen and teens now. But they are so far ahead of their friends. They are good at keeping their money in tax pots. I think my son is so clever that he has a store money pot in his Monzo bank account that he takes almost everything out of his current account just in case he loses his card or his phone gets stolen, that his money doesn't disappear. And that's not through my teaching, that's not through me telling him to do that.
No.
That's his own intelligence, and I think that's incredible. Many children don't understand the value of money, even more with a digital world. We tap our phone. Back in
Yeah.
the day, at least we'd have cash in our hands and we'd have to
Yeah.
count out the change and understand that if I spend that money, I don't have as much back. It doesn't work that way so much anymore.
No. It's really, really helpful, I think, for people, especially that transition between leaving school and having your parents very much in control of your finances and going on to whatever the next step looks like, especially if it's not immediately employment, because you're still having to manage money, but you've slightly got more responsibility for it yourself, but you're not maybe earning significantly yet. So I
Yeah, I
think it's,
mean, even if they go to university, they are given student loans. I've heard so many stories of they get student loans, they go out partying, and
yeah,
the term's money's gone in a month because
yeah,
they don't understand that they've still got to live. And
Yeah.
that was kind of where the book came from. So it's aimed at 16 to 19-year-olds. It's that point where they are getting ready to leave home, although I know children are leaving home later and later now than they were. But it was sort of
Yeah.
that sort of age when I was leaving home. I
Yeah.
didn't go to university, but that sort of age of these are the things that I wish I knew back then, and I hope my children know when they go off to university, if that's what they choose to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the book is not very long, it's 182 pages, it's chaptered out, and not every chapter will be relevant immediately.
Yeah.
So whilst there is some science behind it, so like our money habits are formed by the age of 7. So if we come from parents that weren't taught financial education either, aren't aware of money, maybe struggle financially. Again, I'm from Scunthorpe. We didn't have a lot growing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's passed on, even with the best
Yeah.
will in the world. That's all formed before you're 7. And it was important to me that people that read the book understand that it's not their fault and that we are hopefully going to break the cycle now that financial education is starting to come into schools. But there is chapters on rent versus mortgaging, different saving and budgeting methods. There's a small section on starting your business, understanding your pay slip, tax and national insurance, pensions. How many of us get to our mid-30s before we even think about having a
Yeah,
pension?
that's really true. And I think, there's that thing of I mean, we talk about privilege, don't we? There's a kind of almost an unconscious privilege. You don't realize you're privileged that your dad, back when you got your first mortgage, this is me I'm talking about, said, you're not getting an endowment mortgage. Don't be ridiculous. It's got to be a repayment mortgage. And the best deal at the moment is this one because you can port it if you now that financially was huge for us because we ported that mortgage, I think, twice. So things like that just if you've got someone in your background that knows what they're doing and can give you all this advice, you are privileged. If you don't, things like your book and the financial education that's happening in schools really help to fill that gap, don't they?
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. And I think it's
Yeah.
just so important to, luckily, this book was sort of a passion project of mine. It was my legacy. I wanted to help the next generation. And we had sponsorships from Apron and Zero, two incredible softwares that we work with at the practice. And because of their sponsorship, we were able to donate over 200 copies to schools, colleges, and CICs. I now go out and teach this in a workshop format to children as well, so that we really can help build better businesses, help the next generation. There's also a section in the book which is incredibly important about credit and debt and
Yeah.
how to borrow correctly and
Yeah.
understanding that if you take out a loan or put something on your credit card, you've got that repayment, but you still have all your normal monthly expenses, because I
Of
think that's
course.
where so many businesses, so many humans fall down, is not calculating the, oh yeah, I can afford £200 a month, but that £200 a month has to be on top of your everyday spending, otherwise you get
Absolutely.
into that hole. And the plan is, if we can all get a better financial education, people will borrow less irresponsibly, people will be more
Yeah.
confident with their money, they'll be able to save and invest better, they'll be able to understand their pensions and their taxes more, start businesses comfortably, they're less likely to fail, which will boost our economy.
Absolutely. I can tell this is a real passion project for you, Stephanie. You're so kind of animated when you're talking about it. I could actually talk to you about this stuff for another half hour easily, but I am aware of time. So I think we'll start to wind it up if that's okay. Can I just ask you to kind of pull together everything that we've talked about and tell us if you were at the start of your journey and you were thinking, do I have the confidence? Do I have what it takes to go into this industry, whether it's on a self-employed basis or whether it's on an employed basis? Why is it a good industry to get into and what are the opportunities for people? Why would you say, yeah, go for it?
First of all, everything in this industry can be taught, everything can be learned. The only thing that I think is an essential is that you care. That you care about people, that you care about the businesses, because we are so intertwined with the businesses, whether we're employed or working on a contract basis as a practice. You have to care, because every single business owner is like having another child. Your baby is your child. And there's a saying that it takes a village to raise a baby, and it's so true. But it also takes a village to raise a business. And as a bookkeeper, we're privileged to be a part of that family, and we get to be integral and essential to helping them understand their numbers, make the correct decisions, and build their businesses. It's incredibly fulfilling when a business owner can take on that member of staff, or can finally
Hmm.
take their kids to Disneyland, or can have the operation they've been trying to save the money for years,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
take on staff, or buy a new property, or buy some more machinery, or Businesses are, there's so many different types of businesses too, whether it's a charity you're working with. I mean, some of the charities I've worked with in the past is some of the most fulfilling work you'll ever have, because you're getting to make a difference not only to the business, to the charity, to the trustees, you're making their life easier, but the people they then go on to support. And
Yeah,
it's that ripple effect. I
yeah.
think that's the main thing, is if you care about people, if you care about what you do, you have pride in your work, then bookkeeping is an incredible industry to be in. I think we're very lucky. I said earlier on that we are so lucky that we have a collaboration over competition industry. I have many fellow practice owners that I can turn to with any question. If there's a little unique situation, which quite often happens, if you're a good problem solver, this is also a great industry to be in, because it's great trying to unpick things and fix things sometimes. Find that
Hmm.
missing penny is great fun. Um, there's always somebody that's willing to help you, and if you have a professional body like the ICB, having a whole range of people willing to put you forward for things like this, you know, the Ideal Schools team hold your hand through the process, and I think that's incredibly important. I know there is other training providers out there and you can self-study, but why would you struggle alone when you can have people like Brian and Elaine and Scott who just make it enjoyable? If you like to learn anyway, you're going to thrive even further. But then you also get to join communities like with our ICB professional membership. We have branches. So I live in Kent, but I'm part of the Aberdeenshire branch. Like, we are so inclusive. Everything's on Zoom. You've got a family of people who understand the problems you've got and
Hmm.
the issues you're coming across and the challenges you're facing, because my fiance doesn't have a clue when I start talking to him about cash flow and profit
Yeah,
margin.
yeah. So no, absolutely. Well, I think I'm convinced. Where do I sign up?
And I'm not
Thanks
a
so much.
salesperson either.
No, but you did a great job. And I know, I mean, this is a genuine conversation, not a sales conversation, but it's good to just get these ideas and these pieces of information out there for people, because I do think people need, as I said earlier, I think knowing that other people have been there, knowing what other people have experienced, and knowing what supports are out there, just make it all a bit less daunting. So thanks so much for joining us today, Stephanie. I've absolutely loved chatting to you, and I'll need to get you back on because there's still loads of stuff that I wanted to ask you about that we didn't get to. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.